So recently there was a congressional hearing involving Google's CEO. That's Sundar Pichai, as well as a lot of Republicans and Democrats. This is Senate Judiciary Committee. Now, Representative Steve King is not very happy about the way that his search results come out in Google. Apparently, when you search Steve King, it comes up with all these articles calling him a racist. Now, I happen to think that that is accurate, but King has a problem. See, apparently, he said, I have a 7-year-old granddaughter who picked up the phone during the election, and she's playing a little game, the kind of game a kid would play, which he couldn't name because he probably doesn't know. He said, and up on there pops a picture of her grandfather. And he said, I'm not going to say the record what kind of language is used around that picture of her grandfather, but I'd ask you, how does that show up on a 7-year-old's iPhone who's playing a kid's game? Okay, a couple of questions here. Why would you give a 7-year-old an iPhone? I mean, that's my immediate question, but okay, look, if you want to introduce them to technology or if you want them to have fun and play some games, okay, whatever, right? The other thing is, so what kind of game puts out ads that are anti-Steve King? That's also kind of weird. But anyway, Pichai responded. He said, Congressman, the iPhone is made by a different company. And so, you know, I mean, so this is what they don't understand. They don't know what the internet's about. He thinks it's like, no, the iPhone hates me because it keeps sending negative things about me. How do you get that to stop? And why are you doing this to me? Well, for one, again, it's not Google's fault. And it's not even Apple's fault. Apple makes the iPhone. You know whose fault it is? Well, of course, you know the answer to that. It's Steve King's fault for saying and doing racist things. But anyway, now, when or after he responded, that is, Pichai responded to Steve King's ridiculous question, King said, well, it might have just been an Android then. It was a hand-me-down of some kind. Well, again, who gives iPhones to kids that are hand-me-downs? Who can afford that shit? Oh, right, Congressman Steve King. Tax are rich, I'm just saying. Anyway, so now the internet was very, very amused by this discussion on technology. And so some of prominent internet figures, especially in news and politics, that decided to have a little bit of fun with this. Now, this is Stone Kettle tweeting in, Steve King, it might have been an Android. He doesn't know what technology he's complaining about. He literally doesn't know what phone, what operating system, what the actual message was, or why it allegedly popped up. But he expects the tech guy to just fix it. Oh, now anybody who's ever worked at a call center for tech support, I think knows that pain. So people will call in with some of the most vaguest questions, right? And can't tell you anything. And then they expect you to fix it. A problem that they can't fix, but they expect you to fix it anyway. So this is like the nightmare of tech support people. And it's great. It's hilarious to see that play out. Because he had no answer for it. He's like, what do you mean? I don't even make the phone. I don't know why you're having this problem. Why are you expecting me to fix it? Now, I've also got another tweet here from Stone Kettle. He says, so some adult upgraded to a new phone and gave this one to a kid. They didn't do a factory reset, didn't clean up the platform, just put some kid apps on it and handed it over. And that's somehow the tech guy's fault. Again, kind of pointing out how clueless these congressmen are. Now, look, I'm not going to say that all old people are terrible at technology. That's not true. I have an uncle that is actually, he's like 50 years old, 50-something years old. And he's better at technology than I am. So he like builds servers. I build computers. I build my own computers. That's why they only work half the time. He builds servers, and he's a lot better at technology than I am. So let's be fair about that. But when it comes to people in Congress, they have no idea what they're doing, no idea about the technology, and it's hilarious / cringy to watch them ask questions of people like Mark Zuckerberg or this guy, the CEO of Google. It's hilarious. And it just kind of brings me back to, what was it, Representative Ted Stevens and his famous internet is a series of tubes. That's awesome. That is the level of knowledge that they have of technology, which is not true. It's not a series of tubes. But anyway, there's more tweets here. Issy Lepowski says, Sundar Pichai has sidestepped a ton of questions, but I'll give him one thing. He has the patience of a saint right now. Representative Steve King asked Pichai a question about his granddaughter's iPhone. Pichai says Google doesn't make iPhones. King, it could have been an Android. Tuxedo Mask says old Nazi Steve King got cursed out in his iPhone for being an old Nazi, and his grandmother saw, so he got mad at Google. LOL. Zach Miller says, what I'd like to ask Steve King about a stupid iPhone question today. How does a racist, incompetent moron like Steve King get elected and have governing power? That is a good question. Gerrymandering, perhaps? And, of course, a significant chunk of racist voters. You also have John Hendel, who tweeted in, I'm curious which iPhone comes with a game, I'm curious which iPhone game comes with Steve King as a neo-Nazi pop-ups. It's funny. Steve King, Brad Vachel says, Steve King doesn't like the iPhone because it's black. That's awesome. Brendan Carrot says, Steve King is mad that even iPhone games for kids say he's a racist. That's awesome. Her Royal Fierceness says, Klansman Steve is an idiot, and why does a 7-year-old have an iPhone? Good question. Jared Lipoff says, one possible way to prevent your granddaughter from seeing her granddad described as a racist, white nationalist, or Nazi would be to not give a 7-year-old her own iPhone, or, and this is hardly even worth mentioning, for her granddad to not be one. Yes, the latter option would be great. And then finally, the Talking Elf podcast, which is awesome. Seeing racist old fart Steve King fumble around with his iPhone while asking questions about Google should be a strong reminder. Our elected officials are dumb as shit. No idea how anything works. They only know what lobbyists tell them. Or failing that, I'll add on and say they also only know conspiracy theories to avoid taking ownership in what they actually say and do. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.